Welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to do something slightly different to our normal focus. We're going to move slightly away from security and we're going to look at a big announcement from Microsoft a couple of weeks ago. For the first time, Microsoft is moving to a usage-based license for a productivity tool. It's always been seat-based, single license per user. Copilot Cowork is changing that. So what are we going to cover in this video? We're going to look at what is Copilot Cowork, what are the changes, especially around the licensing model. We'll go over the pricing, discuss what goes into the pricing. We'll look at the coworker price calculator, and then we'll look at how to set it up, how to control it. And this has been a bit of a surprise from Microsoft. I think Microsoft has learned some lessons from Security Copilot and from Microsoft Azure. So there's a lot more functionality and visibility on pricing, which is really good to see. And then finally, we'll have my take on it all. Is this going to be something that Microsoft's going to be moving towards more generally, or is it going to be more limited to something like Cowork? Anyway, if you're interested, let's jump in. I'm not going to go too deep into what Copilot Cowork is because there is a ton of videos out there. Quick overview is Cowork is an agentic system. You describe an outcome and it goes and does the whole job for you. Pulling in files, emails, reasoning over them, calling tools that it needs, drafting documents, posting in Teams, scheduling meetings, things like that. And it can do it all in the cloud without your laptop on. Think of it less like a chat and more like something that's handling jobs for you. It's really good at those type of things. Another example is you're back in the office after a week's holiday and you have 200 emails and 3 missed meetings. You can ask Cowork to help you catch up on anything that's urgent. It can then go have a look at Outlook, have a look at Teams, surface what needs, what the queries are, where you are. It can then start drafting responses for you to approve. Normal Copilot can summarize one inbox folder to a point, but it doesn't have that full visibility. It doesn't have that full agentic ability to do things on your behalf. And that's the big difference between the two of them. So why the changing in pricing? Well, Microsoft can predict what people are going to be using Copilot for. Remember, Copilot is really good at those single tasks, summarizing emails, doing some research on certain topics, drafting emails, those type of things. So quite predictable, and therefore you can have a fixed price. Cowork slightly different. So Cowork, you can do multiple tasks at the same time, really complex tasks. So reviewing hundreds of emails, drafting replies, reviewing Teams messages, doing research on companies, research on partners you might be working with, those type of things, and creating presentations on all of that information. So because it's can handle a lot more complex information and do a lot more complex tasks, it's going to use a lot more compute, and therefore pricing isn't as predictable, and therefore it's more of a pay-as-you-go pricing. So let's have a look what goes into pricing. So number one, the model that you're using. So if you're using Opus 4.8, that'll be one price. Sonnet might be different. If the new models are released, if Fable comes out again, that price might actually increase. So it all depends what model you're using. Again, the context. So are you using a single task or are you doing multiple tasks? Is it looking at just emails or files, emails, meetings, research, those type of things? And then what are you using it for? Is it just research and then creating a PowerPoint presentation? Or are you going to be asking it to draft emails, those type of things? And finally, how long it takes to complete the task. The longer it takes, obviously, the more credits it'll burn through and the higher the charges will be. Important to note that a single credit is going to be roughly 1 cent in US currency. So what are the different tasks, examples, and what are the costs? A light task, as we can see, a weekly status update. So we're looking at 125 credits, $1.25. Medium, customer briefing notes from calendars, CRM, etc. We're looking at roughly 500 credits. And then finally, heavy tasks, analyzing a lot of data and putting it into a report. So we're looking at roughly 1,200 credits, $12. So as you can see, the more complex tasks, the higher the price is. So we are going to jump into the admin portal. We're going to be looking at the pricing and setting it up in a minute. But just some details on that. With the admin portal, you are going to have a lot more control over pricing. I mentioned it earlier. It is a lot better than traditionally you would have in Azure or you would have with Security Copilot. You can actually control how many credits each user, each department get, and you have a lot of control around alerting. Visibility, great visibility into reporting, users, groups, etc. And then also efficiency. So you do have a couple of different options in purchasing credits. So you can purchase pay-as-you-go credits. So you get charged each time a task is performed or how many credits are burnt. Or you can also do a prepaid model. So you can purchase a whole lot of credits up front, and then you'll get a discount for purchasing those credits. So we'll have a look at that, and then you'll burn through those credits. You can also have a combination of both. So if you have prepaid credits and you have pay-as-you-go, what will happen is you'll burn through those prepaid credits first, and then you'll move into a pay-as-you-go charging afterwards. So let's jump into the admin portal and have a look at how you set that up. Actually, before we jump into the portal, I wanted to bring up the Customer Cowork Estimator pricing calculator from Microsoft. So I'll have a link in the description to the estimator. I am expecting this to change from the current Excel file, but we'll have a quick look through this. As we can see, these estimates are based on using Opus 4.8 from Anthropic, and we can see what Microsoft believe each user will be using on a given month. So this information has been gathered during the Frontier program, where the details were available and the metrics were available to Microsoft. So corporate worker, we're looking at 22 light tasks, 11 medium, and 5. So we can see monthly Copilot credits that would normally be spent. And you can see there that the technical workers probably use the highest amount, and managers, senior leaders use the least. So let's put some details in here. So if we say corporate knowledge worker, you have 50 in your organization, and customer facing workers, well, let's just do 30. Technical workers, we'll give them 10. And let's go managers and senior leaders, and we'll give 8. And then if we scroll down, we can see how much the monthly credits will be and the costs. So in this case, we can see that it's going to be about $147 per user per month. So there we go. Let's now jump into the portal and let's have a look at setting up the pricing. Okay, we're in the M365 Admin Center and let's look at setting this up. So we've gone to Copilot, we've gone to Cost Management, and let's unlock that AI experience, shall we? So first, billing method. So you will need to set up an Azure subscription. With pay-as-you-go, all of those charges come via that Azure subscription. So you will need to set that up. As you can see, I've already done that. Next, we can set up a monthly spending limit. So really useful if you want to limit pay-as-you-go, what people can use, or how much credits you have, you can set that up. Or you can turn it off if you have really deep pockets. So let us turn it on and put it on to 5,000 credits. Next, you can set spending limits per user. So that's really useful. I think everybody has that one user who will want to try it for everything. And if you're not careful, that can become very expensive really quickly. So we'll set it as 2,000 credits per user. Further down, you can define alerts. So you can have an alert once it reaches a certain amount of credits, once you've burned through a certain amount of credits, and you can add recipients. So let us add a recipient. You can customize setup, so you can change a few things in there if you want. Beyond that, we will click activate, and then we can manage configuration. So with manage configuration, you can see you can now purchase prepaid credits. So we'll click on that. Again, you can see the bundles you can purchase, and there are slightly different discounts on each of the bundles. So let's have a quick look. 300,000 credits. What do we get? And we can see 29% savings, so quite useful. And oops, let's go to one of the bigger ones, and let's see what we get with somebody with really deep pockets. So 300 million credits. So yes, that's quite a big fee, but you do get big savings. So we can see that on there. And brilliant. So what you'll also be able to do is you'll be able to see an overview of the environment and the costs, and you will be able to see the consumption once that starts. So hopefully that's been useful. Let's go on to our recap, shall we? So to recap, what did we cover? We had a high-level overview of what Cowork is and the difference between Cowork and Copilot. We had a look at the challenges of pricing Cowork and what goes into pricing Cowork, should I say. We had a look at the price calculator, so give you a rough estimate on what pricing would be, and then we had a look at how to set it up and the different controls that you have in place. So what is my take on it? So I think it's going to be interesting to see how many companies take up Cowork. I think it's going to be a bit of a slow burn. As the models get better, people will then start adopting it more. But I also think as the models get better, the pricing is going to change. When Fable first came out by Anthropic, there was it used a lot more credits than Opus did. So that's going to be an interesting take to see what happens going forward. I do think it will be limited to Cowork. I don't think they will take that pay-as-you-go pricing to any of the other productivity suites or tools, but time will tell. You never know. But it is going to be interesting to see how this develops over the next few months. So I think it'll be a bit of a slow burn until people get used to it, and then people will start using a lot more of Cowork and its capabilities. So yeah, that's it. Hopefully you found this useful, and thanks for watching. Next video, we'll be back to normal on the security stuff. Thank you. Take care.